Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new season of the Founder Shift podcast. I am so relieved it's almost spring, and I'm kicking off this season by talking about systemic change. Yeah, nice light topic for us, right? Um, but it's critical. If you are here, I'm going to guess you are feeling pretty disheartened by the fact that we're living this version of the US right now that is diligently trying to undo a lot of positive progress. And that's the light version. I want to say you are not alone. And of course we can't kid ourselves. This is not actually new, especially not for people of color, and it was far from perfect before, but in case you need to know where I stand on this, I want to be clear. I am against state violence, especially against civilians and any marginalized groups. You can pretty much blanket that response to most of the issues at hand today. I'm for human rights, and I'm not going to stop doing the real work behind diversity and equity and inclusion, because anyone against it doesn't actually understand what that is. And by the way, it shouldn't be at all controversial to say that. And I'm not becoming a political influencer. I'm certainly not doing everything perfectly, but I am using the tools that I have to fight some good fights that I think are worth it. And I'm looking to use my business to amplify more of the good and to create more good where there is a lack of it. So I've always been of the mindset of I can't fix everything in the world, but I can at least make progress in my corner using the tools that I have, trying to make the best decisions possible. So look, if you choose to stop listening, knowing that, that's fine, and farewell. I wish you the best. But for those of you who are gonna keep listening, my goal is to give you today a useful way of thinking about progress, building out your corner of influence in the world, and how to create that brighter place for those around you, whatever that looks like. There are a lot of ways to talk about this frankly terrifying moment in our history, but I'm going to talk about it through the lens of business because A, it's what I know, and B, business is this incredibly influential vehicle for progress if it's used correctly, or at least I believe that it can be. And we don't see enough blueprints for what that looks like. So, positive progress, how to create it in your business and in the world, that's what this episode is about today. And it's really what my business is all about, too. So, let me take you back to a brighter and happier time, the financial crisis of 2008. Never thought I'd be nostalgic for that. I grew up in a town that wasn't small necessarily, but it wasn't big either in most of the ways that you could consider big. You could take 30 minutes to drive from one end of town to the other, but you had to leave if you wanted a job that wasn't like retail. And not, again, this is nothing wrong with any of these jobs. It just wasn't for me. Um, and so you had to leave town in order to move anywhere socially, financially. And so I did. And I did not know what I wanted to do with my life. The only internship that called me back was this tiny healthcare practice, which was interesting in a couple of ways for me because one, they said, well, we'll teach you everything about HR. And oh, by the way, can you edit our policy book? So that was my introduction to the people space. And it was one of those things where you kind of fall into it by accident the first time, then you just like love it so much that you do it on purpose. So the cool thing about it was this element of we were trying to do healthcare differently by doing it better, right? Spending more time with patients and doing what we had to do and fighting the good fight. And that's where I got introduced to this idea of changing by example. This better example, it proved that this can work, right? Because I built the talent architecture that 10x that team, 4x the physical footprint. I've seen the success that can come from that. And when I had built everything there was to build, I started looking for other opportunities to do that. And so, from there, it was about taking on those challenges and creating change and creating different examples in many, many different types of environments. That's been across Fortune 500, across international development spaces, and all of those key principles about change were pretty much the same. Humans are human, but business is also business. Right? Even if it's a nonprofit or a social good container, it still produces an outcome. And groups of people together operate in similar ways. There is this massive business system in the US right now that has so much power and so much like reverence behind it. And yet it has stopped being an inspiration or a building function or a constructive force like at all. And so this is one of the main reasons why I'm so icked out by this concept that we all need to be building empires, right? Empires by nature are taken by force. They require domination and conquering. And honestly, I don't want to work for people who are obsessed with conquering and taking and extracting value and insert any of the business words that you can think of. And it would be naive to think that that's not how we got here, right? As a country and a society. However, I have to hope and work towards some reality where it does not have to always be that way. And so, like, what do we do with that? Well, there are two ways that a massive, powerful system can change. And one way we hope doesn't have to happen, but one way is like things go bad and it's forced to change, right? It's not ideal, but it is one way. The other way is the way that I'm much more interested in right now. It's the one where you present another option for people to experience and opt into. I had this idea for a long time that the best way to create systemic change was to leap headfirst into the fire and try to put it out from the inside. Well, there are cases where that works for sure, but I'm not sure anymore that total immersion is going to be the best way. The fire tends to consume you in some way. But there's this reality where while we build something different, we often have to play the game that's here. So again, like, what do we do with that? I won't pretend to you that I've solved all of this, but I have some ideas. That's the foundation of why I have two pillars of my business that I work on, both of them. One of them is the change container, right? It's for established businesses who want to do it differently, but they're not currently right now, and it's not working for them. I see this all the time. And the other one is founders who are structuring it from scratch. My hope is that they never need my fix it consulting services because they've built it right the first time, and it's going to be more additive and it's going to be more expansive and it's going to be structured well from day one. But it's to change the structure of what business growth means and has looked like in the past, and to offer another version. So in consulting, I work on creating massive, large scale behavioral changes, right? So essentially that's what it is. You're asking people to work differently and to interact differently, to collaborate differently than what they have just reflexively learned. It's not easy, but one of the key elements I always start with is a co-creation event. And the value of the co-creation event is not that it alone will solve the problem. I tell every client it won't solve your problem. By the end of the day, your problem's not going to go away. It's going to come back. However, you have given them a container to practice, to experience and practice something different. So when we change more things, right? When we offer different ways to do things, we offer another strategy, they have had this excitement and this engagement and this feeling that they are trusted partners in this change. And it is the core way that I have seen this work over many, many different industries, types of experiences, types of changes, reasons for change. In every case involving people in the solution works much better. What everybody's used to, right? What we see around us is this command and control, my way or the highway. You're going to get on board with this change or else you can go. That's not necessarily how to do it well or how to make it stick. If you didn't have to correct for variables after the fact, how good could it get? That's the core question. And it's the same in the founder practice too. With my founders, we get deep, deep, deep into the design aspect first. One, because it makes the end result go much more smoothly. but also to give the founder a different way to think, a different way to work, a coach who can really integrate into their brain and say, "Hey, did you notice that you were saying this, or this seems really important?" And it helps you to have that mirror, to have that reflection time, to be sure that the moves that you're making next when you're building your first real strategic team are the right ones. The right ones because it reflects how you make decisions and what your values are. That is so, so key. I just finished a mentorship with an amazing client who is hiring her first strategic person. And she told me she did 30 interviews herself for her last intern position. And because we spent more time up front, really being very, very intentional with who we were attracting and how we were going to integrate that person, what the job was, because we did that upfront work, we didn't have to do that. We had a lot of applicants, but I screened 10 and we interviewed 4 and we found her perfect person. And she's so excited now that she told me today, I am just I'm on a roll now. I wanna see what else I can let go of. Because once you experience the freedom of being able to tell someone, "Hey, I'm sick today," and everything's taken care of for you because it's a person that has the capabilities that you need in your business, that you can quickly hand over something to them and they get it and they run with it and they own it. It's a completely different level of life. So it's that experience of working with someone who is senior, who can give you the experience of feeling truly supported. Once you feel that, you don't go back. So the model is based on overturning these 2 really core assumptions about change. One is that change is happening to us. We are the victims of it. And I know most of you are not going to identify with victim language. Nobody sees themselves as a victim, but if you think that every change is just something that you have to react to, it's something to look at, right? It's something to look at. That's a core assumption everybody has. Everyone resists change when it's happening to you. Instead, I help people become the architects of change because it is so important to make sure that we have autonomy over our own lives, that we can make choices that are in line with our values. And the second assumption is that you, the founder, right, or the leader, have to solve everything. That is so much pressure. That's so much pressure. And in fact, when we do that, we often have to make these edits, these corrections, these rollbacks, right? On the opposite side, we encounter resistance because that's human for people to resist change. And inherent in that assumption is like once you've figured it out, now you have to make people go do it. Right? That you have to make people change after that. That's the traditional cascade. That's not what we do. Instead, building a team or creating a version of your existing team that is a true thought partner that can build with you, it's completely different of an experience. Even in some of the more sensitive reorgs that I've worked in on the consulting side, if we involve the team up front, we allow them space to voice their concerns. We seriously consider their concerns in the design process. We involve them and invite them into the design process. When we invite those humans in, we get better results because they feel engaged in the result because they helped create it. It seems really obvious, and almost no one is doing it this way because we're following the old playbooks. So, my point with all of this is be skeptical of the playbook. Just because you see someone having financial success doesn't mean that it comes from any sort of special leadership abilities or skills. It means someone forced something to happen sometimes. Sometimes it is because someone has a skill that you look up to, and in that case, take that, run with it. But you don't have to copy the exact playbook exactly how they did it. So I'm going to let you in on my change model that works if you are 2 people, and it works if you are a 100-year-old organization that's looking to turn the ship around. This is not your typical reaction to change. This is you architecting change on purpose because it's positive and because you want to build something better than what we have. Step 1 is pick the hill. Now I hate the terminology of like pick the hill you want to die on, but it's kind of that, right? Pick your hill. What is the most important thing about what you're doing? You should be able to write 4 major priorities and big directions down on a Post-it note. They should not be more complicated than that. And these are the priorities that will guide everything. Once I was building a function inside an older organization that was really ready for culture change, and I said, well, in order to do this, we have to democratize information. We have to change how resources are given and to whom, and we have to change the environment in which this happens. And so those are my 3 things, and every single thing I did for 4 years came back to those 3 things. So the hill was, it's going to be a more inclusive organization. Those were my handful of methodologies, and I stuck to that. Every single task, project, or initiative I launched after that point rolled right back up to those things. The second step is to extract the good and build on it. There's no reason why we have to, as they say, throw another idiom that I hate, but throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, there's no reason to be doing that. We have to keep what is good about whatever it is that we're trying to change. We have to be really honest about it. Keep what's good and build on it, some level of foundation that we're saying, well, this is important, so we're going to amplify it, and include people in the design, whether that's you building an offer, doing market research, whether that's you changing the structure of your team. Include people in those conversations, and exactly how you do that really depends on the situation. And that's why it's helpful to have a third party with you to partner with you on that. And then the third step is acknowledge the bad, present an alternative, and give early wins. Help people experience it in a small, controlled environment, right? There's only one way that change really happens without destruction, and that is experiencing something good. So let them experience it. There's 2 more steps after this. Step 4 is build your muscle. Pilot test, make adjustments. As you move forward with this new team, new service, whatever it is that you're really trying to change, test your assumptions. Make sure everything works in the real world. I've learned that to be able to do the things I really believe in, I usually have to call them a pilot the first time. So pilot and practice, build the muscle, try it, fail a little bit, try again. You're always going to go through this iteration process as you're constructing something that's never been done before. That is just how it is. Don't be afraid of it. This is your experimentation phase, and you're going to learn so much from this process. And then finally, you get to level up. You get to replace the old way of doing things with new, additive, expansive versions of what life and work could look like. For a founder, it's like, once you get that team in place, this is where this comes in, right? It's like, what do you replace the tasks you used to do with? This is a really big question. It's different for every single person, but the step is the same. It's like, what's going to bring you alive? What's going to add value to the world? What's going to add value to your people? And what are the biggest impacts? I mean, I like to plot it on a chart of time and impact, right? And if it sits in the perfect quadrant for you personally, we do it, right? If it's going to touch and help more people, then we do it. If it's going to be pretty quick to set up a pilot, we're just going to do it. So leveling up means replacing what was there with better stuff. And this is an ongoing process. It's for the mission-driven founders who are listening. This is not something we just decide on the mission once and we know exactly how to get there in our 4 things and that's all we have to do, right? We will try 1,000 things before we find the thing that is going to work, and that's totally, totally fine. But what we do want to make sure of is that those little priority decisions that we make in the beginning, those design moves, that they're going to hold regardless of what external environment changes that we come up against, because there will be changes that we can't control and we are going to have to react to them. Those core things that are important to you about what the difference is that you want to make in the world, make sure that they're so deep that that's not going to change, regardless of what's going on. So pick the hill, extract the good, offer an alternative to the bad, acknowledge it openly, but offer an alternative, let people try it. Build your muscle and level up and repeat. If you're taking yourself through this thought exercise regularly, you're going to become the architect of positive change and progress. And that's where you want to be. My mission is to create a business growth option where we become incredibly successful without playing into the dirty, dominating, conquering, consuming side of business, that we can be excited to do it differently. And you don't have to sacrifice mental health and kindness for wealth and success. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. So let me ask you a question, really. This season, we're going to talk a lot about this question. What is success to you, really? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't actually want to become a billionaire. That doesn't seem nice to me. I think that I'd like to have stability, independence, time, and the ability to build something that is still standing if I have to step away from it. I want the ability to not be thinking about money constantly. Actually, that's my money goal, to have enough money that I don't think about money. That's always been my my underlying goal, because it's a signal that the business is doing well enough, it's healthy enough, that money is doing its job, and it doesn't require all of my attention. Anyone who claims they don't care about money has never lived without enough of it. So, money is definitely a part of everything. If we're in entrepreneurship, part of having entrepreneurship is the control over what you earn, right? That's one of the most freeing parts of it. But we have to be careful about the existing playbook, because we've elevated this concept of money so completely that we've started mistaking accumulation of wealth for some sort of special leadership capability. And it's not the same. It's not the same skill. So what I've built my work around comes back to a couple of principles and values of mine that if you align with these, then let's get to work. Let's build this thing, right? So health and time are the real wealth. Growth doesn't have to mean hyper growth. Steady is sustainable. People are the best growth strategy, and change happens best through experience. So let's give ourselves more evidence, more experience of something better by creating it ourselves. Building something better than what we inherited means to be brave enough to take what works, challenge the rest. We're in a moment right now that is forcing every founder, creator, builder, and leader to decide, what kind of system am I creating or perpetuating? Am I just maintaining what's here, or am I truly creating something better? Business gives us a controllable container to practice the constructive change that we want to see and the leaders that we want to be. You don't have to burn everything down, and you don't have to sell out. You have that third option. Build something that flourishes and helps others flourish, because those two things have never been in conflict. We just haven't seen it play out often enough. And now is the perfect moment to really design and become the architect of what comes next. So next quarter, throw out the playbook. Get out of the next quarter mindset. And I want to challenge you to find that one highest impact thing that's going to make your business sustainable for the long term. This is the simplest first strategic point that you could establish. It's not going to be the fire or the urgent thing. It's going to be the important one, the impactful one. What are a couple of choices that you could make to build kindly and sustainably for a purpose? That's the work. And I think you already know you're ready for it. So I'm excited for what's to come this season. I'm excited for the guests that you're going to be able to get to know. Join me next time, and I look forward to seeing you there.